Knight f6 is much more played. Knight c3. Knight d7. This is one of the moves. b6 is sort of, let's say, I would say prophylactic move, like making a useful move, waiting for what white will do. And we here have actually interesting game between Carlsen and Caruana being white. Bishop e3. Okay, so now this pawn doesn't need to be defended. e5. Castles, castles. What is black going to do? Black is probably trying to move his knight and to play for attack. What is white's plan? Well, standard plan what we see in almost all those lines. a3. I want to push. Stopping does not really stop because we have these tactical situations. I will get my pawn back. It is not easy to defend all this stuff. If b5, knight c5. So Magnus says, okay, queen e7, queen b1. Again, willing to push, and black says, okay, push. I will focus on a kingside attack. b4, f5. Already we see that we will get extremely sharp position. bc5, f4. Bishop d2. And now we have interesting decision actually. And the right decision. bc5. Because taking by queen would not be good. Because amongst other things, okay, queen b4 is unpleasant. Forcing black into not a good ending. We have file. I mean, this a file is going to be a headache. And of course, without the queens, there is no attack any longer, or it takes much longer time. So Magnus takes. Check. Bishop e6, queen a4. It is very clear. Black is going to try to mate. White is going to try to collect some pawns and not to get mated. Rook a c8. Queen a5. Very logical move. Caruana wants to attack some pawns as quickly as he can. However, Stokovic is saying that queen a6 is a very strong move. And I think this is maybe the reason why in the later World Championship match Magnus changed. He didn't want to enter the same line. Because g5, what else? Rook fb1, rook f7, preventing rook n3 and being ready to attack, right? Rook b2. It is very difficult for a human to play those kind of calm moves. Because you allow g4. Takes, bishop takes, rook ab1. And okay, engine is saying that somehow white is much better. Because he threatens rook b7. You cannot take on f3 because this rook is hanging. And I think this is the reason why in the World Championship match Magnus, he changed his mind and he didn't want to enter this position. A game went queen a5, and it is worth showing it, because somehow I was quite impressed what you would see it later, that with the limited pieces and even queens traded, that black's attack remained deadly. g5, knight a4, g4. Okay, plays here very straightforward. We are having these attacks on both sides, like what you sometimes have in a King's Indian. Everybody minds his own business and doesn't look very much on the other side of a board. Though white better looks more because he has a king, black is only losing some pawns. This is also what is typical in a style from Magnus, what I noticed while writing a book on him, Magnus on Middle Games, what I wrote for Quality Chess, is that he doesn't really like to sacrifice a house. But to sacrifice a pawn, he is very happy to do it. ag4, bishop g4, queen c5, queen f6. Okay. Black has attack while he did not sacrifice a house. Knight h2. f3, very nice move, though queen h4 is perhaps more effective. Black is already here having more than compensation. Probably black has already winning attack, because this knight is completely hopeless, and black is attacking with simply too many pieces. So queen h4, black is already having more or less winning attack, because it takes ages to bring this piece back. f3 was played. Knight g4, queen g6. This also looks great, but is less deadly because queen enters the fray, comes as a defender. Let's say knight e3 instead would lose to knight f4, and simple checkmate is going to come. I mean, I want knight g2, and I want knight e2 check and queen h5 checkmate. But queen e7 takes, and now actually came a probably crucial mistake. Though logical move, it is difficult to decide. Caruana played move rook fb1. Why? Because he's hoping to get some activity. Very logical way of thinking. Rook fe1 is a better defensive move, because after takes, queen g5. A queen trade now does not lead to same situation like a game, because after knight f4 you can move rook e3. Something which Caruana did not have in the game. Protecting knight h3 check, and position is unclear. Engine will give you round zeros. Maybe it is this position is perhaps even better, even easier to play with white. Best move is to sacrifice a pawn, queen f3, queen g2, queen f7. Okay, this position is very promising, but and it's obvious that it's very promising for black. But white is in the game. Rook fb1 is aiming for activity, and also I guess that white's problem was that after queen g4, queen g5, he thought that there is a draw by move repetition. Queen e2 happened, queen g4, queen e3, queen g4, queen g5. But now Magnus showed superb judgment, judging that after queen g5, bishop g5, knight f4, position is winning for black. And black will basically end being a pawn down, because this pawn on g2 you cannot protect. But somehow, even without queens on the board, black still has a deadly attack, because, okay, white's pieces are still far away from his king, and black is very quick getting his attack. And this position is simply winning. For example, king h2, king moves. Knight c5, bishop f6. This is simply winning position. Caruana, he decided to take a pawn. Takes, king g2, f3. White is actually hoping to survive by exchange sacrifice, but his problem is that black plays for attack. Black is not interested in taking exchange. f3. King h3, now black can take exchange because it runs into checkmate. Bishop a1, rook a1, king goes, and okay, some very big king will be cut, and some very big accident is going to happen. Or knight c5, rook g8, this is simply over. King f1, hoping to run, but he can't run because the problem is rook f4. There is always move bishop h6 to prevent a king run. c3, hoping to do some run. By the way, you cannot run this way because it is not only bishop h6, also this move is a headache because you cannot run because of rook e4. And king is still in the mate. Bishop a6 will come. And not to forget, this rook keeps on hanging. So c3, being ready to run and protecting a rook. So that means actually in this position, Magnus could still win exchange and be better, but he correctly judges that attack is stronger. Rook d1, d4. And here somehow it is pity that the game did not get its worthy finish. Because black played move bishop h6 and he will win. But bishop d4 was very beautiful move. cd4 is forced because rook d1 runs into rook h4 and king cannot run because of a checkmate. While king also cannot run again because of a checkmate. King e1, bishop d4, cd4 is only move. And now rook h4. And beautiful king is in a mating net. If king runs and is mate, and if king runs, it's also mate. And we have those pieces sleeping on the wrong side of the board. Just beautiful sacrifice that with so limited number of pieces on a board, you can actually create a mating attack because attackers and defenders. Bishop d4, they are simply no defenders. King is fighting alone. And beautiful mate. All those pieces sleeping. Usually, actually, what I also notice in these games, you will rarely find Magnus that he has his pieces sleeping on wrong side of the board. Normally, they are actually kind of close to his king and well coordinated. Sometimes, of course, he gets also accidents, but rarely. So bishop d4 was really worthy finish. Bishop h6 also wins. King e1, rook e4, king d1. Okay, now black needed to find last difficult move. Because this is logical move, but okay, problem is that there is a defense. And that's why Magnus plays last difficult move, which is c5. Opens up position. If knight takes, now okay, there is no rook b2. And I will still mate you. And rook d2 is threat, rook f2 is threat, double rook and rook d2 is a threat. So c5, king c2, king must run, takes, rook e2, e3, rook e2, c4. Avoiding getting mated, but who says that you must get mated? Rook f2, rook d1, rook e2. Well, black is 2 pawns up and is still having more or less a mating attack, and white resigned. This is very beautiful game from understanding the factor time, the factor attack, and attackers and defenders. Because it is really beautiful that in such a position that it's completely winning. This position is something like -3, while there is limited number of pieces. But because all these pieces are piled up on a queen side, there is no defense. However, for theoretical perspective, and I think reason why Magnus did not repeat it, was that actually here queen a6 was a very strong move. Followed by cold-blooded rook b1, rook f7, and now just move like rook b2. And doubling. Takes, takes, and doubling. Not easy for a human. But okay, this is the reason I think why Magnus changed his mind. And when he played the World Championship match versus Caruana, he played it a bit different, which we would see. Knight d7 is also option. What he played then in the London World Championship match versus Caruana. in this position. He didn't play move b6. So instead of playing b6, followed by e5, and then this idea to play queen e7 and knight h5, in a world championship match, Magnus played move knight e7, bishop e3, e5. So he focused on more central control, castles, b6. Here Caruana decided to go for f4 plan. He still could have decided to consider a3. But here problem is that with those pawns very well defended, now a5 is possible to slow white down. Because I don't have these sacrificing tricks, which I usually have, because this pawn is now well defended with my knight on d7. So happened castle b6. Fabiano now went for this kind of push. But knight f8, very good move, because let's say castles, okay, white's probably better now. So knight heads to e6 just in time. All those combined plans, probably by now it is obvious that this knight is almost always good on e6, but the right timing is needed. f4, ef4, rook f4. Okay, now file is open. And now black decides for different move order. Now if knight e6, knight e6 basically forced move f4, because if you don't push it now, where my knight comes here, you would never push anymore. However, now if knight e6, okay, rook can go back, and if castles, there are some attacking motives. So Magnus now playing bishop e6. Knight will go to d7 maybe later on, or to g6. He is now delaying his castle, which is very clever decision, because king can also go castle queenside. Rook f2, h6, queen d2, g5. Rook f1, queen d6. Indeed, preparing castling queenside and knight g6. Excellent play. Now, black is actually dominating. It is very nice how black outplayed white in this kind of position. Knight g4 castles, actually black has a great game. Later on was having a winning game. It finished as a draw after 115 moves. But I like this kind of play. Playing knight f8, forcing more or less f4, and then just deciding to castle queenside. But first improving the position by taking space, and then castling queenside. I like very much how this was done.